Yuta Okkotsu watched the screen. Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer of the modern era. His sensei is cut cleanly in half. Around him, the other sorcerers collapse into grief, but Yuta's mind has already moved past the corpus on the screen and arrived at the only question that matters. What needs to happen next for the rest of them to survive? This is the exact second that line appears on the ground. The one Gojo drew for himself when he accepted that the path of a sorcerer ends in blood, and the one Yuta promised silently he would cross if the world ever asked him to. The safety net is gone, and inside Yuta's chest, something that used to look like empathy quietly reorganizes itself into a weapon. The good student, the devoted disciple, the boy who loved too much to be careless with anyone's life. From this moment on, all of that becomes a problem, because the only way to honor what Gojo built is to do what Gojo never asked his students to do: get their hands dirty, swallow the guilt, and move on. The plan begins at the worst possible moment for the villain. Sukuna commands the field. Every pair of eyes in the war zone is fixed on the king of curses, Kenjaku, the ancient manipulator who spent over 1,000 years branding himself into the history of humanity. Is treated by the narrative and by Yuta as an afterthought. Yuta does not announce himself. He does not demand a duel. He appears behind the architect of millennia of suffering and he cuts off his head. A better behaved story would have given Kenjaku a monologue, a fair fight, a final exchange of philosophies. Gigekutami refuses. The mastermind dies, suddenly off-center, without dignity. A cowardly execution from behind is precisely what the scene is, and he accepts the label. What he is doing here is taking on the assignment Gojo will never be able to finish. If Gojo had somehow survived, the moral weight of hunting down Kenjaku would have been piled onto a man already carrying the spines of everyone he had ever failed to save. Yuta removes that from the equation by inserting himself where a mentor used it to stand. The soul begins to stand here, less because murder is unfamiliar to a sorcerer, and more because Yuta has chosen to be the one without glory. The sword that kills Kenjaku is the sword that carves off a piece of Yuta's self-image. From the corpse of the old schemer, Yuta walks onto the main stage and opens his domain against Sukuna. Authentic mutual love. The name sounds gentle. The reality is a graveyard of swords. To understand the horror of this space, the nature of Yuta's technique has to be examined honestly. Copy on paper is one of the most flexible abilities in the story. Yuta can borrow the cursed techniques of others, and Rika has to feed for the ability to function. Cannibalism. Pieces of the enemy pass through her before they pass into him. Every blade in his domain is someone he has already consumed. The field around him is an inventory of identities he profaned to survive. This is the man walking towards Sukuna, with the softest name on his lips. The ideological clash lands here. Sukuna is pure ego. His power begins in selfishness and ends in selfishness. Yuta is the inverse disease. He empties himself so completely on behalf of others that there is no longer a self to protect. His love is so total that it requires atrocity as a fuel. The concept in psychology is pathological altruism, the state where the compulsion to help curdles into harm, where the caretaker becomes dangerous precisely because no limit exists between him and the people he is trying to save. When Gojo set out to dismantle the conservative higher-ups who strangled the sorcery world for generations, Yuta and their other students made it clear they would stand with him. The stated reason was unsentimental. Their sensei should not have to be a monster by himself. That scene is the rehearsal. The Shinjuku domain is the performance. Yuta has fully absorbed the lesson his teacher never managed to articulate in words. That the people who have the capacity to cross the line should cross it together, so no single soul has to carry the entire weight of it. The strategic meeting a room full of bad options. The plan nobody wants to say out loud: if Gojo dies, he will take his body. Maki hears it. Her face goes flat with disgust. The others follow, with the confidence of characters who have never had to be the one holding the knife. Yuta stops being polite. It is a corroded rage of a person who has been forced to watch a specific injustice for a very long time. Gojo Satoru was raised to be the strongest, treated as a weapon, isolated by his own gift, and then asked, decade after decade, to be the executioner, the fixer, the one who stood on top of the pile of corpses so that the rest could keep their morality intact. Every student had benefited from his loneliness. Every superior had survived because he agreed to be the monster, so nobody else had to learn the job. This mechanism is the scapegoat, a community-preserved sense of purity. By concentrating its sins into a single figure and expelling him, Yuta becomes the first character in the story to name the arrangement out loud, what the others call ethics. He calls accounting, morality, in his mouth, stops being a virtue and becomes a privilege, a luxury available to those who had stayed clean because someone else agreed to dirge his own. The friends who recoil from Plan B are the same friends who spent years letting Gojo bleed invisibly. Yuta has no patience left for the difference between a clean conscience and a clean mirror. The present returns with the sound of his own body failing. Sukuna has cut him open. The domain has collapsed. Yuta is dying in a way that a copied healing technique might not be able to reverse in time. His hand reaches for the last option on the board: Kenjaku's body swap, the stolen art of brain transplant. The exact tool of the villain he decapitated only minutes before. Gojo, in life, did not care about the disposition of his corpse. He had no religion about his own flesh, no illusion that a body preserved in dignity would undo the loneliness of the life lived inside it. The profanation is not a crime against the dead man. Gojo gave up his vote on that question the moment he stopped breathing. The crime is internal. It is a crime Yuta commits against Yuta. He worshipped this man, not in the empty way a student praises a famous teacher, but in the shape of a son who built his entire adult identity around the only adult who ever treated him like a person instead of a problem. Putting on Gojo's skin is the final transgression of a personal religion. It is tearing down the altar with the same hands that use it to kneel in front of it. The philosopher Michael Walzer described this territory as the problem of dirty hands. A person in power, confronted with a real emergency, is sometimes forced to commit an act that is genuinely evil in order to prevent a larger evil. The clean answer: refuse, stay poor, accept the catastrophe, belongs to saints and to people who have never had to choose. The dirty answer belongs to anyone who actually loves the world enough to keep it running. Walzer's point is surgical. The right choice can still be a sin. It does not make the necessary thing clean. Yuta understands the bargain, and he does not pretend otherwise. He closes his eyes inside his own face, opens them inside Satoru Gojo's, and walks towards Sukuna wearing the corpse of the only person who ever made him feel safe. Sukuna became a monster through pure self-interest by eating his brother to preserve his own completeness. Yuta becomes a more disturbing monster through the opposite movement, by eating himself to preserve everyone else. The story offers both paths and refuses to let either one feel like freedom. Yuta, wearing Gojo, goes against Sukuna, and he loses. The borrowed clock runs out. The body stops responding. The final gamble, the plan that he created a human being to assassinate his own identity and desecrate the corpse of his savior, produces a defeat. Not a glorious defeat, not a defeat that turns the tide for someone else, just a defeat. The most powerful technique in history, used by one of the most devoted sorcerers, results in a boy who can no longer even control his own body. Then Rika pulls him back. He wakes up in his own body, smaller than he has ever been, and Maki is standing over him, furious, scolding him like a sister yelling at a brother who threw himself into the middle of traffic, or a lover who has seen their partner make a wrong decision. The tragic finale Yuta wrote for himself gets gets downgraded into a scolding from a classmate. This is the final punishment of a pathological altruism. Yuta did not earn death, he earned survival, which in his case is the harsher sentence. He traded his identity, his teacher's body, his moral self-image, and his future, and the universe does not even accept the payment. He has to keep waking up. He has to keep eating. He has to sit across from the same friends whose conscience he dismantled and let them forgive him for things he probably would have done exactly the same way. The boy who once could not touch another person without a fear of destroying them has ended this chapter as something harder to name. The person who discovered in the worst possible way that the most dangerous creatures in this story are the ones who loves without a break, and who are condemned afterward to live long enough to understand exactly what they did. Thank you so much for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed these videos on Yuta. If you can, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and giving some hype to the video. Apologies for any mispronunciations, and be sure to check out my other videos as well.